So here's our agenda for 20 minutes today. It'll basically be 20 minutes of my model with a short aside about hub site menus in SharePoint, and then we'll have up to 15 minutes on your questions. So please make sure you can find the Q&A panel, and my colleague Nick will look after those sorts of things. So that's the agenda, a little bit about SharePoint, my 3-tier model, and then an aside about hub sites and menus. SharePoint is an ocean. SharePoint is the foundation of M365 collaboration. It's behind every Microsoft Teams team and even behind every Viva Engage community. It's ever present. SharePoint can be your intranet platform, but as it's so much more, so much larger, let's remember that your intranet is in SharePoint. SharePoint itself is a vast ocean. Your colleagues mostly experience SharePoint as an undifferentiated, amorphous mass. It's not tangible as a whole. Now, SharePoint sites are islands. The majority of SharePoint sites are islands, and they're floating alone in the SharePoint ocean. I know islands don't float, but you catch my drift. Now, there might be some well-used island sites out there, but who knows how easy they are to get to, how to navigate around. Maybe people bookmark them. Maybe people always search for them, but it's not intuitive, not when we're dealing with scores or rather hundreds of SharePoint site islands. So the intranet is supposed to fix the experience. It's supposed to provide a recognizable landmass for colleagues to start from. Sometimes colleagues will venture to unmapped islands, but hopefully they'll find what they need on the all-employee intranet, the intranet you define with my model. So let's have a look at my model. So my 3-tier or my 3-level model is just a model. It's only as good as it is useful. Today I'm presenting it as 3 top-down layers, but you can reverse it or make it horizontally linear, whatever works for you and your colleagues and the true shape of your intranet. I say that a model is good for governance and management as well as for wayfinding. What I mean is, an intranet is always growing and you often need a sense of what it is and what it is not, what is part of the intranet and what is not part of the intranet. You need governance reasons to say no to a new intranet site idea, an intranet site that isn't for most people, but only for an audience of 25. You need reasons to say no to a request for a new hub site when a normal intranet site would be better. And so if you and your digital team, your intranet team, your comms team, if you have a bit of a map, a bit of a concept, a visual concept that you can share with stakeholders, but also use to come to an agreed understanding of the shape and scope of your intranet, you'll be able to better manage the whole intranet, including things outside of the intranet. So let's go to level 1. This is what I call the core intranet. It's a simplified sitemap showing what I call the core intranet. You might recognize it as being very central service heavy. It might be about central departments, it might be about central services. It's what we agree to be the all-employee intranet, or at least every site on the all-employee intranet is for or available to the majority of employees. Let me just state the terms here. Com site, that means communication site. And in general, this is what I mean by intranet site. As you know, a SharePoint intranet is made up of dozens or scores or dozens and dozens of sites, and we're supposed to bring them together into some kind of holistic experience. And that's what my model is talking about. Is it possible to use SharePoint team sites instead of SharePoint communication sites? Yes, it's possible, but I would need a very obvious and strict purpose, a use case, before complicating an intranet with team sites and the permission complexities that they can bring. But by all means, ask me about team sites in the Q&A section. Home sites. Let's have a look at what I mean by home site, hub site. Now, in Microsoft parlance, home site is a designation, a technical designation, meaning that the news from it, the news within it, is classed as official communications, official news by the organization. It's an organizational site, it's a home site. So I know colloquially we think of the home site as being the homepage, it's just the home of the intranet. But I need to let you know that I'm using home site as a technical term because Microsoft call it a home site designation. That's important because I also wish to designate the home site as a hub site. Hub site, again, Microsoft parlance, it means that this is a hub site designated as a configuration in the back end. You would speak to your IT department about ensuring you have the correct hub site configured. So while the home site means that news from this site is designated official, the hub site provides the hub menu. And it's this hub menu which I consider to be the intranet-wide mega menu. It's the shared menu that you're looking at on your screen here. You can ask me in the Q&A why I'm saying it's a mega menu, because of course you do have the choice to use the cascade style of menu. But I'm pretty sure, having worked with loads of clients, I'm pretty sure you're going to plump for a mega menu when it comes to the intranet-wide all employee menu. But this is a simplified model. So, I really want to respect that it's simplified. I've got a second version of this. It's still level 1. Oh, my screen has frozen. I'm so sorry. Bear with me. This is still the core intranet, but it's a slightly less simple map of it. What you'll see on the far right is that there's now a second hub site. Now, I'm imagining for a larger organization, perhaps one with a customer service call center, or perhaps one with a field force. So maybe that call center, that customer service division, or that field force division, they need and deserve their own hub site with their own hub-specific menu. So while this second hub site is connected to our home hub site, the thing to remember is that this second hub site offers its own menu. It does not show our intranet-wide mega menu. And this is why I worry about departments like HR insisting on having their own hub site. Because when a central service department has a hub site, what we're doing is we're getting rid of the consistent all-employee intranet-wide mega menu. We're leaving it up to these hub sites, these departments, to create their own mega menu. So I ask you, how is that useful? How is that creating a cohesive employee experience that is easy to navigate around? So in my model, I'm asking our central service departments to take on our intranet-wide menu and just use their own site-specific menu for their own navigation. Because as you know, and as we'll see later, SharePoint offers 2 horizontal menus. The top one is what we're talking about today, the all-employee intranet-wide mega menu. Going down to level 2 of the Wild West intranet now. So this is the Wild West. It's the organic intranet. Overwhelming, isn't it? This is how SharePoint is experienced when there isn't a recognizable core intranet with a single intranet-wide mega menu. If you look around this confusing slide, each of those hub sites provides its own menu, and that might be great. It might be for a really good, useful, strong purpose, its own separate audience or shared audiences across the organization. It's very likely that all of these sites in the organic intranet, it's very likely that they're all very operational based. They're focused on day-to-day work, and so they're incredibly valuable. But it's a disconnected experience. And what I'm saying is, if we have that top layer, the all-employee core, that will enhance the intranet experience by providing a landmass, a continent for people to start from, and then they may well end up going to the organic intranet in my second level of this model. So my level 1, my first tier, does not in any way replace this second tier. The organic intranet is quite likely very necessary within your organization because it's so much more operational focused, it's so much more focused on the specific users. Although I do work with clients who are working to eradicate the organic intranet, and what they're doing is they're raising the governance standards and they're going to raise the organic intranet into the top layer of the intranet. What they're saying is, in our governance model, excuse me, in our governance model, everything is for all employees or it's not part of the intranet. So you say to yourself, well, if it's not part of the intranet, what is it? So let me take you to my third level of my three-tier model. This is the collaboration zone. So this is mostly an invisible layer. Unlike the two previous layers, this is mostly experienced not in the browser, but directly within Microsoft Teams. So it's the collaboration zone. I have nothing to criticize here. It's operational, it's day-to-day, and it's mostly for real teams. Teams of 20, teams of 60, etc. Sometimes it's for teams of hundreds, perhaps even thousands, and that's just not true or authentic, is it? That's not a team. But I can't criticize operational necessity. I just recognize that over the years, I think we all know that it's too easy to create Microsoft teams, which come with the team site. And therefore, we are all members of far too many teams inside Microsoft Teams. So to summarize my three-tier model, you may already have a very good and useful organic intranet, that middle layer on this model. But as your organizational digital dexterity matures, I think you'll want a core intranet that serves all employees in a consistent and cohesive manner. The holy grail that we're all looking for is a navigable intranet, something where we can kind of say, oh, it's intuitive. Now, I'm scared of the word intuitive because different people experience even a good intranet in different ways. But we're looking for a consistent navigation theme, a consistent navigation method. And so that means doing user research and matching our information architecture to end user expectations rather than slavishly aping our organization chart. So while the organic intranet may be very necessary, I think as we want a cohesive employee experience, that means we should be building a cohesive, consistent core intranet layer as a starting point for all employees. And yes, there might be some split specific audiences. So I might talk about field operations having their own side of the intranet, possibly even their own intranet. Because if field ops is what your company is all about, it might be that field ops have an intranet experience, and then when they want to go to the all employee experience, they feel like they're going up to something to get the central services. So there's always caveats, and you would want to adapt this model and consider what your true employee experience needs to be based on how your ops and your organization works. For instance, if we're talking about audiences, it might be that you're a multinational, and therefore the audiences that might deserve their own hub site, like I said about field force or customer services, you might recognize that each country within your multinational organization is its own audience and therefore deserves its own hub site. That's perfectly possible. But it is difficult talking about multinationals and countries because then you get into matrix design, which is no fun, especially for a SharePoint intranet. So that is my three-tier model. Starting at the top, we're talking about the all-employee experience, and it's well-governed, well-managed, well-maintained, and while it will always grow and develop because no intranet is launched and finished, it will be managed. There's strong governance to ensure that when we're creating content and expanding the core intranet, it's always in line with our strategy. And the organic intranet, perfectly respected, perfectly necessary, but I would hope that the lessons learned from managing the core intranet could filter down to the organic intranet, and we could not impose, but we could develop some governance that helps the navigation and information architecture and the employee experience of these larger bits of the organic intranet. So I hope you got some questions for me. I'll happily go through these slides as we hit the Q&A. I'm just going to have a mention about hub sites, not to get too technical, but this idea of the core intranet and the organic intranet is kind of predicated on using hub sites and their hub site menus appropriately. What do I think is appropriate? Well, as I'm suggesting, I think hub sites are for distinct audiences, not for central departments. Let's have a look at this. So one slide on the governance of hub sites. Consider this carefully, as there will be caveats and exceptions for large organizations, but I put it to you that if your intranet is made up of multiple hub sites, that there will be therefore many different menus, and that is confusing to your end user colleagues. If your goal is to provide a cohesive experience offering a single intranet for all employees, then we should offer a consistent intranet-wide menu for wayfinding to avoid people feeling lost. Wherever they are on the intranet, they can always go to the top of the page, wherever they are, and they can hover and get the mega menu. Wherever they are on the intranet, they can see that singular one mega menu. If they're somewhere else on the intranet, they won't have that mega menu. So now they emotionally and intellectually know the difference between what's on the intranet and what's off the intranet. Being off the intranet is valid, but it may not be for all employees. So the upshot of this is we should stop central departments from being hub sites. I don't mean to pick on HR, but HR is needed by everybody. So that's not a distinct audience. HR, health and safety, even facilities, these are all central services that are needed by everybody. So they do not have a separate distinct audience, such as the field ops division would have, or the customer service call center, which is a specific audience, a specific use case. Line managers only make up 15% of your audience. So 15% of your organization. So that could be a specific audience in need of their own hub site, probably security permissions trimmed as well to keep it secret for them. So my point is, a core intranet is really built from one hub site because of that singular cohesive intranet menu. And please remember that every site in SharePoint has its own site-specific menu anyway. So HR, of course, will have its own menu. It just won't be at the top of the page. As you can see on this screen, your site-specific menu is the second horizontal menu. On this screenshot, you can see I've got a paddle of the mega menu open. But if I was to move my mouse down to, say, News Center, that would be a cascade menu, a drop-down menu. So every site in SharePoint has its own site-specific menu, which I prefer to be a cascade menu to differentiate the menu from the intranet-wide mega menu. So why are organizations using hub sites for departments when I think it's a less than optimal practice? The answer is Microsoft was very proud to roll out hub sites. And in very large organizations, it kind of makes sense to have multiple hub sites, different things for different people. But that loses the cohesive one intranet that I think is many of our goals. So Microsoft was very pleased to be able to offer hub sites with those mega menus. But Microsoft has never really got its teeth into the single all-employee intranet. Other intranet products, independent intranet products, love all of that. They always start from an all-employee ethos. They're building an all-employee intranet from the ground up. And then they'll think about specific audiences. But with SharePoint, this is over 20 years old. It's never really thought about all employees. It's often thought about bits and bobs between the organization, around the organization. So the fact is, when hub sites launched, we overly enthusiastically adopted them, meaning that our intranets often have multiple menus. And all I'm saying is, I think our goal might be to have one core intranet at least that's for all employees, central services that offers one singular menu so that nobody feels lost.